All right, back with you. Hour number two, San Diego sports leader. It is the Mighty 1090. Let's say hello to the athletic director of Jim Sturk. I must say, I started the week saying, I'm not sure, man. What's San Diego State? How are they going to approach this radio show? And they've been great, and I never had any doubts. We were teasing on Monday that we might be blacklisted from any guests from San Diego State. We've had Akil Quinn on. We've had Winston Shepard on yesterday, who was great. And now here's the athletic director, Jim Sturk. Jim, good to talk to you. Darren Smith, thank you for the time.
Darren, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's a great week, and looking forward to the game on Friday.
You know, I would think too, and for any program anywhere across the country, you guys have done this, six straight times for programs like Duke, for programs who you might see in the second round, programs like Kentucky, which is expected to win every single year. You know what always stands out to me is year after year, whether you're a blue blood program, which goes every year, Jim, you can really see how much fun it is for everybody. Coach Fisher, who's done this a bunch of times, Calipari, Coach K. It really is so much fun to see the look on everybody's face when they know they're going dancing.
Yeah, I think it's being around, those young adults basically, and they're becoming adults. They're kids when they come in at 18, and they're young adults when they leave. But being around them keeps us all young, keeps us excited, keeps it fresh, and to see how they react and how they're excited about it, keeps us going. And I think that's what's great about college athletics.
Well, let me start with a little bit of a bigger picture question here about your conference, about the Mountain West. You guys end up with an 8 seed. You end up, that's yourselves, a 12 seed. You get a team playing tonight and a play-in game. Your thoughts overall on how the conference was treated here with the selection committee?
Well, I think it was it's a tough job. That committee has a very tough job. But I think, overall, we knew going into the league season that we didn't do well in the preseason. And you knew, what was it, a couple of years ago when we had 5 teams in that everyone had quality wins. And so I think the conference was stronger. So you look at the evaluators and you can see that the things that that are going to come into play when the seeding comes, when how many teams you get into the tournament, so you can kind of predict that a little bit, and so it's not a complete surprise, but it was good to get 3 teams in, and we want them to go as far, want us and them to go as far as we can.
So you don't feel like the conference was treated unfairly? You feel like this is about what you would have expected here based on the complete resume?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, and I know that you would have been okay with this, but it's really interesting in a twist that you end up beating Wyoming in the conference championship game. You think you're a 2-bid league?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I would have hoped that Colorado State would have gotten in, but they say they don't look at conferences; they just look at school, at the individual resume of each team. But maybe that would have opened a slot for Colorado State to get in.
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I know you follow this stuff just like I do. We're talking to Jim Sturk, athletic director at San Diego State. It seems like they were pretty far off, which was a little bit surprising to me. I spent a lot of time on RPI on the program. I mean, it seems like their RPI was pretty quickly dismissed here, that they were pretty far out. They weren't even one of the last 4 out, at least according to what I read.
Yeah, that's right. Boise was in that, that final 4 that didn't get in, but you're probably more accurate. I think, in talking to Mike May, and, he really studies that stuff more than me, that he has more faith in the system now after looking at that. And because Colorado State didn't have, any quality wins outside of the conference.
So when all the athletic directors get together here, how much will be discussed about improving everybody? Colorado State's a great example. Hey, we might have to bump it up a little bit. Do what San Diego State does. Play Arizona. Play teams like that. Play Cincinnati on the road, because it's only going to help you somewhere down the road. That's probably going to be a conversation more for the offseason, but I'm sure it'll be brought up amongst the athletic directors.
Yeah, we've been having those conversations in the fall and winter, and especially since Scott Barnes was the chair this year and the AD at Utah State. So we try to use that information, and so we're looking at not only basketball, but football, and then our other sports as well, of how the league is doing, what can we do to improve, and what kind of scheduling strategies can be done. So those are things that we do in our conference meetings on a regular basis.
All right, we're talking to Jim Sterk. He's the athletic director. How do you like your draw, just your individual draw as you analyze it, starting on Friday night, the potential second-round matchup with Duke? How do you also like being in the bracket that everybody will be watching? You guys are going to be on CBS. You guys will have Jim Nantz and Grant Hill and Bill Raftery. How do you like the setup and the way you guys were dispatched out to the East Coast?
It's tough to travel across the country, but I think the opportunity to play on a national stage, I've heard this is just our fourth national CBS game in the history of the school. So I think that's very important for us overall as a program to continue to grow. So I think we have a great opportunity. I certainly would have rather been a 6 seed than an 8 seed, and then facing the number one if you win that first game and possibly facing Duke. But I like where we're at. I get to see some friends. Tony Bennett at Virginia is in the other pod. I hired him at Washington State, and he became National Coach of the Year, so I'll get to see them. My best friend and mentor in the business, Kevin White, is at Duke, and so you get to see him, but you don't want to play against him, So it'll be a good time as far as the day before, but then the day of the game it'll be crazy. But it's a tough draw. I think the coaches can tell you better, as far as how it will be. But I think at the end of the day, defense wins a lot of games, and I think we're one of the elite teams in the country defensively, and I think that really helps us going into the game.
Yeah, it's so funny that you just brought up Tony Bennett here because that's a style of basketball that is not always agreeable for some people. And San Diego State is a similar style here. You've been around some defensive-minded basketball coaches here in San Diego with Steve Fisher. Tony Bennett is mentioned through Washington State, now with Virginia. Do you get a sense that there is a little bit, that there's a groundswell here from people who say, maybe we need to do something here. Maybe all this defense that's being played in the sport here isn't so great for the product overall?
Here's what I have to say about that. Dick Bennett, when I hired him and Tony at Washington State, I had a media person say, that style is outdated, and I said, is that why Green Bay, Wisconsin, when Dick Bennett was there, actually had to build a new arena and had sellout arenas? Then when he went to Wisconsin, brought them to a Final Four, they built their new, 18,000 seat stadium. They sold it out. And we've had 100, or I don't know what the number is on sellouts for us, 3 straight years or 4 straight years. So I think people like to win, and right. I think that's the number one criteria. And if it's defensively, I think some of the loudest I heard Viejas this year was when we shut teams down and they ran out the 35-second clock, and didn't get a shot off. I think those are great plays, and people appreciate good basketball.
Right, the winning is what matters. I've compared it to teams that I watched when I was younger, pro teams like the New York Knicks, and everybody hated watching them because the final score was 77-74, but they also ended up in the NBA Finals. So if it's your team, you're okay with it, and you've been around a couple coaches here. You don't think it's the black eye and the detriment to the sport that some people are suggesting it is?
No, and I think I think the Spurs are a team that plays pretty good defense and play team basketball, and I think they've had success. And a guy like Kawhi fits into that system pretty well, and is an NBA MVP. And so I think I think it's just it's winning, having success. The way you do it is is important, and if it's defensive, I think that wins a lot of games for you.
Hey, last question I have for you, Jim. Just switching gears slightly here. We're with Jim Sterk, athletic director at San Diego State, and maybe you've been quoted on this. If so, I apologize. I haven't seen it. But within the last week or so, the Citizen Stadium Advisory Group came out and said Mission Valley, we feel like, is the proper site to build a new stadium in San Diego. And I know you and I have talked about this in the past. We talked about the idea of downtown, and you said that might be like our third choice. So any reaction to the CSAG identifying Mission Valley as the preferred site?
Not surprising for me, but that they identified that as the best site. And as we've discussed in the past, I think that's the best site for San Diego State to be at. And so whatever happens, I think that is the best site for us. Right now, given all the factors, obviously you'd love to have a place on campus, but I think I'd have to fight through lawsuits, not finish in my lifetime if we tried to build one on campus, as far as neighborhoods and things like that. But I think Qualcomm's site has that, with the trolley there now, and it going right through the middle of our campus. It gives us a huge opportunity to get people and shuttle people to that site. So I think that's a very good site to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been, did you meet individually yourself with the CSAC?
Actually, President Hirschman did.
Okay. All right. And I like that. Lawsuits up by campus. So you've actually looked around and thought about it.
Oh yeah, and there's potential sites, and so it
Right.
depends on what happens. We have options, and I think that we'll look at that and see what we think is best for San Diego State, depending on where it goes. But I think overall that's a good site for a stadium and a new stadium there.
Well, it's all NCAA tournament. It's all about Friday against St. John, somewhere about 6:40 or so here on the Mighty 1090. Jim, as always, not only do we thank you for your time, but on the way out, if you'd like to promote any other sport on campus, would you like to take the opportunity to do so? Because you're always great with that.
No, we actually just, I do want to give a shout out to women's swimming and diving. They won another title, and they're in the NCAAs right now. I think we have 7 ladies that are back swimming, and so with the NCAA championships. And then baseball's had a heck of a start. I think they're 15-5, something like that. So they've got a home series this weekend against Air Force. So if people can come out and watch, there's great baseball being played on the Mesa.
I always get these emails about the women's water polo team. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, they're doing very well too. I can go on and on. I figured you'd only give me one or two, but if you want me to, I can continue.
Maybe next time.
They're nationally ranked as well.
I get the email all the time, and I always say, "Gosh, I mean, I appreciate all the thought that goes into that and promotion of that product." So I thought maybe you'd take a crack at that, but we'll save that. I'll tell you what, you knock off the Johnnies on Friday night. Maybe we'll revisit it next week.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
All right.